Howdy folks, Little John. The day has arrived. Day number 1, first batch of what I'm going to call just the kit extravaganza. Where I'm going to go through and attempt to brew every kit beer available in Australia. If you're coming along for the ride, strap in because it's going to be a long one. As I said in the previous video, I'm at a minimum of 250 kits starting off, and that could well increase as we go along. But got to start somewhere to get somewhere. So our first brew, and simply because I had this in the cupboard ready to go, is this fella, Morgan's Stockmans Draught. First cab off the rank. So what I'm going to be doing, and pretty much I'm going to look to do this with pretty much every can or every pouch, or depending on how the kits come. Obviously some are going to come in pouches. I'll be splitting the batch in half. Each batch will get 1 pack of yeast, or a split of a yeast starter or a slurry, depending on where we are. This fella today is going to get 1 pack of yeast each. And half of each batch is going to get done with the equivalent of 1 kilo of light dry malt and 400 grams of dex, and the other half will get done with the equivalent of 1 kilo of dextrose and 400 grams of light dry malt. So it's going to be a malt focus and a dextrose focused. So we're going to get a more malty, beefier version and a lighter, thinner, a little bit more alcoholic, sugar-driven version. So I'm about to put these fellas together. I will be using Low Brew BRY 97 American West Coast ale yeast, and I said 1 packet dry onto both of these. These will be going into 2 19 litre corny kegs to ferment, so there'll be 11.5 litres in each keg. I'm just going to be doing these today. This batch will be going on ambient on the garage floor. It's around high teens, pushing up to around 21 at sort of the highest at the moment. So I'm happy with that temperature range. I'm going to run with about 5 psi of pressure on both brews till that day 4. So allow the initial fermentation to happen without much pressure on, and then slowly build that pressure up so I can build up to a point where I can bottle from the fermenter nice and easily. So what I'll be bottling will be the beer straight in the keg. There'll be no secondary carbonates, secondary fermentation going on. And then we'll be looking to do a taster on these 6 weeks from the end of ferment, so about 8 weeks from now. So today is actually the 23rd. It's Tuesday, 23rd of March. So this video, if you're watching it, it should be somewhere around the end of May by now, because I'm going to sit down very shortly and I'm going to actually pour myself a glass of this Stockman's Draught and taste it. And that's what's going to happen with every brew. It'll be a short intro on what each one is, and then we'll be tasting and reviewing each different batch, giving it a score, and we'll go right through. Part of that scoring and whatnot will be also, I'll put in what I believe some recommendations for maybe playing with that kit. Anyway, I will see you shortly in 8 weeks. Right, howdy folks, I'm back in 8 weeks. Told you it'd be nice and quick, didn't I? Anyway, here we go. First tasting on the Extractaganza. So both bottles here. And I said this is the Morgan's Stockmans draught, brewed one half with the equivalent of 1 kilo of dry malt and 400 grams of Dex, and this fella on this side brewed the equivalent of 1 kilo of Dex and 400 grams of light dry malt. So we've got malt focused and dextrose focused. Okay, so they're well gassed. Now, the malt version was bottled off the keg. These were brewed in the this is the original video, on the doctored 19 litre cornies, taken a little bit off the dip tube so I can ferment in them, and then bottle straight off those. Now, as I said, this fella was bottled off the keg directly. This one was actually bottled with carb drop, because there was very little gas in the in that keg. It hadn't sealed properly, so dropped the carb drop in, and at the end of the day they've ended up very similar in carbonation, but obviously there's going to be a difference in the alcohol due to that carb drop. So let's give some quick numbers. Malt version, original gravity 1046, finished at 1011 for an alcohol of 4.6%. So it's right in that range of the standard pub draft, which is what we're assuming Morgan's is going for with the Stockman's draft. It's just a straight up Aussie, an Aussie ale, slipping into what could be a lager if you were to make it that way, but standard Aussie brew. The Dex version started at 1045, finished at 1007, so it dropped an extra 4 points with the extra Dex. Then with the carb drop added on top, it's actually now at 5.4%, so it's a bit stronger. Without the carb drops, it would have been sitting about 4.9%. So the Dex version, as expected, you're getting that little bit extra alcohol due to the fact that you've got more fermentable sugar. So that's exactly as expected. Both brews have got a fairly decent head. The carbonation's certainly not hurting that, and these glasses are nucleated. It probably wouldn't have been a bad idea to have done these in a plain glass, but this is the glasses that I generally use. If I don't use these, I use the Headmasters anyway, so that's how it is. There's a little bit of froth there to negotiate, but we'll get by that. So yeast on these was BRY 97, 1 pack dry each into each keg. And that's it. Oh, geez, that bloody froth's bitter. Crikey. These are brewed at ambient temps, just sitting on the garage floor at the time. I think when this went on, there was about 5 beers going in the fridges at the one time. But temperature was pretty good, so it's fermented around 19-20 degrees. Then did that for 2 weeks, and then I cold crashed it. So this one actually fermented in the end, it was about 2.5 weeks. About 18 days, 17-18 days. So technically it's been about 5.5 weeks in the bottle and conditioning. And these bottles only went into the fridge this morning. Probably would have rather had them in a little bit longer. That's just how it's happened. So anyway, I'm gonna start having a bit of a go at these. Okay, so nose, a little bit of sweetness on the nose. Not getting any particular malt or hop coming from it, but just that sweet. Well, I suppose it's a malty, it's a sweet malty sort of nose. Okay, straight up the bat, first thing is beer. It's just that bog standard Australian pub beer. Light malt, very little hops, gentle bitterness. As I like to say, it's non-confrontational. It's, you know, it's bang on that mark of the easy drink of beers. So it's exactly, it is what they're, you know, what you're expecting the can to produce anyway. That's light with the malt. It's not empty, it's not hollow in any way, it's got a decent mouthfeel. Okay, that's the same thing. The mouthfeel is light. The body is a bit lighter on the Dex version. Mouthfeel is fairly similar on both. It's, you know, it's decent mouthfeel. It's not watery. It's not thin. But it is a bit. Yeah, it is light in the mouth. Doesn't hold real long. The Dex is a tad lighter, not a lot, but it is a bit lighter. Negative, I'm picking up the twang in the back end. I think it's the nose. The nose is that twangy nose. It's that sweet tinny tang that you get from a lot of kit beer, from a lot of extract. And it's fairly, like I said, it's noticeable when you're taking a whiff of it. It covers everything else. There's nothing, you're not really getting at anything else under that. So you're not able to really tell if there is some nice malt or hop nose there, because it's all just that twangy nose. Yeah, it's not vicious in the mouth, the twang. It's there, and again, as I always say, different people are going to determine that different. They're going to feel that in a different way. Some aren't going to really pick it up. Others are going to. It's going to be quite pronounced. I always say this, and I think a lot of people sort of say there's this. I think there's a thing where I think I pick up the kit twang really easily. I don't know whether I'm just tuned to try and to look for it. Something with, with that going with the kits, I don't know, but it's It's there. Plenty of brewers talk about. Everyone talks about kit twang, so yeah. And if you're a kit brewer, you know what I'm talking about. You know that sweet, malty flavour with a slight rounded fruity edge on it. We know what it tastes like. It's there. It's later in the mouthfeel. You get a little bit of the actual beer itself, and then it comes on. So it's not overpowering, and it's not taking away from the beer entirely. I think it's enough to stop the beer from being really enjoyable. Which is a shame as it is, because I think there's a reasonably, solid, sort of Australian style beer there. If you're drinking or wanting to make, Great Northern, Iron Jack, Carlton Dry, Carlton Cold, Extra Dry, all that, those popular, easy drinking Australian style lagers, the true mega swill, then this is really knocking very close to that sort of beer, and I think would probably be a really good starting point for making, a good version of that kind of beer. There's not a lot to work with to try and hide the twang in this style, but it could be done with a little bit of, maybe steeping some grains, a little bit of a dry hop, even a little, a short boil of some hops, just to throw a little bit of hop flavour in there, just to maybe counteract it a little bit. I think personally you'd probably have a hard time really getting rid of it at all and completely hiding it. But so that being said, I think what I'd be looking at for this brew would probably be somewhere between the two fermentable wise, so probably a complete split of the dry malt and the decks, so 500 of each or 600 of each, depending on where you want to push your alcohol. If you want to stay in that 4.4 range, hit the 500 grams of each. If you want to go about 4.6, 4.7, go with 600 of each, just to bring it up a little bit. I think it'll work good. I think the little bit of extra malt's working well. And I think that the twang's not quite as noticeable with this little bit extra malt there. And I think that, as I'm starting to get through it, is getting just a little bit flimsy on flavour with the decks. So I think that halfway mark, I think, would work reasonably well. Be interested to see this done with a lager yeast, and actually done at lager temps over a little bit of a longer period, to see what effect that would have. But that's really about all I could really suggest you be doing with it. I think keeping it to a fairly narrow band of where it's designed for, I think is going to work best. You start doing too much to it, and I think you're going to start pulling away from the base beer. It's not really. I don't think it's the base that's really going to take doing too many things with hops and stuff with. I don't think it's going to take a real fruity hop too well. I don't think you're going to be able to bang in some Citra or Galaxy or something like that. and just turn into that, give it that sort of pale ale sort of finish. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's the base you're looking for. It may take a little bit of ringwood or some, topaz, even some Simcoe up the back end, something that's going to, or Chinook, something that's going to get a little bit more earth and dirt, as opposed to florally. Keeping it on that dankier side, I think, could work. But that's interpretations for you mob to do at home. As it stands, I'm going to score both of these in the same place. I'm going to give them a 3. Just quickly on the scoring. If you go onto the website, links down below, on the Little John's Brewery, there is the list. I've got a list of all the brews that I'm doing, and it was going to have a breakdown of the actual blister can, the yeast I use, what fermentables were added, and I will put a score on there, and it's got the scoring chart on there, how I'm rating. It's 1 to 5, basically. 5 being obviously very good kit, something I'd recommend that everyone brew. 4 being good kit, certainly worth trying. 3 basically a kit that where I believe if the styles of beer that kit makes is the beer you enjoy drinking, then I think it's worth having a crack at. 2 and 1 basically from the scoring means it's a beer I don't think you really should be bothering with. Potentially only if you want to really play around with something and create something else from it. This gets a solid 3 and creeping towards the sort of, I could probably go 3.5 if that was the range, but I'm not going to start getting into halves. For me, this isn't I don't think this is a beer I'd be making again as it stands. But that's simply because I can make this style of beer from grain, and I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to get a beautiful clean beer with good flavour. If you're brewing kits and this is your style, then maybe, like I said, this is maybe a kit you can look at playing around the yeast a little bit and the temperatures and stuff, and find the perfect range, find the perfect balance of malt and dextrose and yeast and temperature to get it right and override this twang a little bit. But for the most part, that's not a terrible kit. It's delivered a beer certainly in the range of the style they're attempting to. So you got to you got to give Morgan a thumbs up for that, if nothing else. So that's a first Extractaganza done, finally. I'll be looking to do a tasting every 2 weeks on the kits. They're going to just keep pumping out. I've got the next 3 batches sitting over there. Batch number 4, number 5 I think is already, I don't even know where I'm at, I've lost track. Number 4's in the fermenters at the moment. But yeah, every 2 weeks we'll be looking at a new Extractaganza brew. So the next one that's coming out will be Black Rock Dry Lager, New Zealand kit. So we're looking forward to that. So at the moment, if you've got any comments or any questions on this fella, on Extractaganza, stick them down the bottom. Big thumbs up and shout out to all the Patreons, Little John. Guys, thank you very much. Particularly, this is the sort of thing that support allows me to do. This craziness is going to be what at this point in time appears to be a never-ending process of brewing beers to get through all these kits, but we're getting there. If you're subscribed, cheers. If you're not, hit the subscribe button down there. Get notified when any Little John's videos come up. It's not just Extractaganza. There's all grain brews, there's extract brewing, there's experiments, there's tasting, there's reviews, there's experiments and learnings. There's heaps of shit going on, but you won't know if you don't hit the subscribe button. And if you're here and you like what's going on, hit that like button. That all helps out as well. So that's me done. As I said, I'll see you in 2 weeks when we're looking at that Black Rock dry lager. So until then, we're brewing beer, we're drinking beer, or we're talking beer. Good brewing. See you next time.